Joining me now, former Democratic Congresswoman from Florida, Stephanie Murphy. It's good to see you again. And I know you're going to be in Chicago for the Democratic Convention next week as all this enthusiasm for the Harris-Walz ticket. It revs up not only in crowd sizes and fundraising, but also in the polls now. So what does the Democratic Party need to do next week to make a strong case to Americans to get their vote? And by the way, given the generational torch that's going to be passed, is there going to be a new vision for the party?
Well, it's great to be with you, and I'm really excited about being in Chicago next week. I think it's going to be a really interesting moment for the Democratic Party. So much has happened since I was in Milwaukee for the Republican convention, covering that. I'm looking forward to seeing the Democratic Party do a couple of things. One is to consolidate their base even more. And then secondly, they need to start reaching out to these swing voters, because in the polling that we see, these races are pretty close in these swing states, and the swing voters are going to be key in this next election. And that means presenting a vision of the future that speaks to these voters. And so I think there's a number of economic issues that they'll have to cover. And I'm really heartened to see that so far the Harris campaign has been talking about affordability and opportunity, key elements in reaching these swing voters.
Do you think that's how to do it the economic way? Because Kamala Harris has this new agenda that builds on the president's plan to lower costs for Americans. And then in some cases, hers go even further. Is it what some are calling populist policy proposals? Is that the way to beat Donald Trump?
What we have seen in polling over the last couple of years, actually, is that the economy remains very high on people's list of what concerns them the most. And so speaking to their concerns is incredibly important. And speaking in terms of affordability, you know, the ability to afford housing, groceries, having access to financial instruments and opportunities to achieve the American dream. All of those things are a key part of this message. And there's a real opportunity here for the Harris-Walz ticket to flip the script on a number of these issues and reach some of these younger and swing voters. I think ensuring financial opportunity, providing a different platform for how they would approach housing, how they would approach financial institutions, being more open to crypto as they have begun to have conversations with that industry to ensure access to the unbanked. All of those things are very tangible ways in which they can meet the American voter where they are.
So in getting to win, the Washington Post polling model suggests that Kamala Harris now has two paths to victory. You've got the Sun Belt, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, and North Carolina, or you have the Rust Belt, that includes Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. The Post suggests that winning just one could clinch the electoral votes that are needed. Then, on the other hand, Donald Trump would need wins in both the Sun Belt and Rust Belt states. Why does having Harris atop the ticket create this scenario? And how should the Harris campaign approach this opportunity?
Well, I think that what we have seen so far is that the Trump campaign doesn't actually know how to define Harris-Walz's ticket without alienating voters. So far, they have come after her mostly with racist and fairly sexist attacks that voters take personally, I think, sometimes when they hear these things said. And so they're alienating key voting blocks in those states that are necessary. And I think, you know, this race is going to be tight no matter what. And so you can't have just one path to victory. And I think the Harris-Walz ticket actually has broad appeal both to those Sunbelt states as well as to those Rust Belt states. You know, Walz does a great job talking to the Rust Belt, and you can see the enthusiasm changing in the Sun Belt states with Harris at the top of the ticket.
Let me add something else here, because a USA Today Suffolk University pollster says Harris is now within striking distance in your state of Florida. Trump leads Harris, yeah, but it's only by 5 points in their survey, and that is just outside the 4.4 margin of error. Does this indicate the former battleground state that has turned red might be returning to battleground status?
I think this is a reflection of the momentum that switching candidates to Harris has created, and it's created it across all of the states across this country. You're really seeing the momentum shift in her direction. I think, though, momentum is one thing, but the other three things that are necessary in a campaign to win in a state like Florida is message, money, and machine. And so the Democratic Party in Florida has to continue to build out the machine, especially since they are about 1 million votes, registered voters down compared to the Republican Party. And so there's a lot of work to do between today and Election Day for them to actually manifest a competitive race here in this state. But, you know, anything is doable. And I think with a lot of hard work and the right message and a sufficient amount of money, they might make this state actually a swing state again.
Interesting. We will see. Thank you very much, former Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy. It's good to see you, Congresswoman, I should say. Thank you.